Hey everyone, in this shorter video we're going to be taking a break from the nitty-gritty data and get a little reflective on the process of measuring productivity. So while the last few chapters have been focusing pretty heavily on designing code war games and measuring output in different conditions of workspace environment and so on, this 4-page intermission, which is called Productivity Management and Unidentified Flying Objects, talks a little bit about how and why it's worth measuring productivity on your team, even if that's hard to do. What makes measuring productivity from intellect-heavy work like engineering hard is that it varies day to day, and thus there isn't a standard unit of productivity that one can give in search of output. The authors, in their Code War games, gave a pretty valiant effort, with each participant trying to deliver zero-defect work on a particular project, but the workplace doesn't operate in a vacuum like that. So while their study produced significant insights, it's still not entirely reflective of the real world. One of the authors was at the International Conference on Software Engineering and hung out for a while with a man named Tom Gilb, who wrote a book called Software Metrics. I love how, this is a side note, how back in the day things were named very, very logically in what they sound like and didn't just have IFY or .ly or random abstract names like, I don't even know, something that doesn't actually have anything to do with the product or the service. But if you hear the term International Conference on Software Engineering, and you just know what that is. And if you find out about a book called Software Metrics, you know exactly what that is. There's no stripe or square or, what would those be if you didn't know already, just based on the name. Anyways, that's a tangent. The author suggested that the author of Peopleware, after the author suggested that the development process is unmeasurable, Gilb responded with a fascinating retort. He said, quote, "Anything you need to quantify can be measured in some way that is superior to not measuring it at all." Right? Anything you need to quantify can be measured in some way that is superior to not measuring it at all. That is quite the statement, and I think it's true on a personal basis and professional, as well as a professional basis. And even though measuring something like team productivity is hard, there are certainly many ways of doing it, and no shortage of companies that exist to consult to others on the topic. So the opportunity is out there for your team as well, regardless of if you choose to do it in-house or to hire out. The last section of this intermezzo, as they call it, is what the authors call measuring with your eyes closed. And that phrase comes from this. So they start off by saying that measuring employees' work has the potential to be great for the team, suggesting ways that individuals can improve, get motivated, increase job satisfaction, whatever that may be. But it's also possible that measurement is used to impart existential dread onto employees. For example, what if someone finds out that he is, by some metric, the worst on the team? What if she is scoring high on this one skill relative to everyone else, but low on some other one? And the authors suggest that the way to achieve the former result and not the latter one is to silo data collection such that only the individuals themselves know the results of their evaluation. This is important because it eliminates comparison between individuals and thus allows each person to be more open and honest with him or herself and focus more on the positive, the proactive, focus on growth and so on. It is also specifically important, and this is where the eyes closed part of that phrase comes from, it's also specifically important that collected data is not shared with management because this would lead to a situation where workers could be ranked. And that opens the door to things like selective promotions or firings, which is not or shouldn't be the real goal of the collection in the first place. Ideally, the goal is that everyone gets to be self-reflected so that they can improve. Hiring and firing based on these is a worse outcome because replacing teammates is so costly to a team that a manager would be better served allowing their people to grow on their own instead. And alternately, if there is someone whose performance is just genuinely lagging and they see it and they don't find it valuable to improve the current situation, which does happen, it surely does happen. But if that situation arises, he or she might understand what that means given that self-evaluation or that report of that being collected about them. And if he or she does not want to try to improve that situation or don't think that it would make sense in his or her life at that time, which is also fair, he or she might get that and might look for a different opportunity and go somewhere else. And both parties would be better off, and nobody would have had to be subjected to the just subjected to kind of the ugliness of being forced out abruptly. And so it's in this way the authors say managers don't need individual data for each person to benefit from it. It's a win-win regardless.